The Fugitive Prince and the Woman Who Helped Him. The story of Moses and Zipporah. Have you ever met someone who changed the course of your life forever? Someone who stepped into your world quietly, and yet nothing was ever the same again. This is the story of Zipporah, a wise and courageous woman who stood by Moses in his most uncertain days. This isn't just about history, it's about trust, strength, and what happens when people show up for each other in the hardest moments. Moses, once a prince of Egypt, raised in Pharaoh's palace with all the wisdom of the Egyptians, Acts 7:22, carried a secret burden. He was not Egyptian, but Hebrew. His blood was tied to a people enslaved under the whip. One day, unable to bear it, he saw an Egyptian taskmaster beating a Hebrew slave. In a surge of anger and justice, Moses struck the Egyptian dead and buried him in the sand. But secrets don't stay buried for long. The next day, two Hebrews argued, and when Moses tried to reconcile them, one sneered, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian?" Exodus 2:14. The words pierced him. Pharaoh soon heard of the murder and sought his life. Moses fled, leaving behind palace, power, and privilege. He ran into the wilderness, into Midian, alone, dust in his hair, sand in his sandals, fear chasing him like a shadow. After days of wandering through desert heat, weary and parched, Moses stumbled upon a well in the land of Midian. Wells in those days were crossroads of destiny. There, he saw 7 daughters of Reuel, also called Jethro, the priest of Midian, come to draw water. But shepherds, rough territorial men, came and drove them away. Here was Moses' chance at redemption. His blood still boiled at injustice. With a courage forged in Egypt and tested in exile, he rose. He drove the shepherds off and defended the women. Then, though he was a stranger, dusty and hungry, he drew water for them, filling the troughs until their flocks drank their fill. When the women returned home earlier than usual, their father Reuel asked, "How is it that you have come back so soon today?" They answered, "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock." Exodus 2:19. Reuel, generous and discerning, did not let a rescuer remain a stranger. "Where is he? Why did you leave him? Invite him to eat bread." Exodus 2:20. And so, Moses was welcomed into their tent, breaking bread with a Midianite priest and his family. Out of gratitude, Reuel gave him one of his daughters, Zipporah, in marriage. In time, Zipporah bore Moses a son. Moses named him Gershom, saying, "I have become a foreigner in a foreign land." Exodus chapter 2, verse 22. His name carried the ache of exile. Later, Zipporah bore another son, Eleazar. For Moses said, "My father's God was my helper. He saved me from the sword of Pharaoh." Exodus chapter 18, verse 4. Between tending sheep and raising a family, Moses' life quieted into the rhythm of obscurity. No palace halls, no armies, no throne, just wilderness, staff, and flock. But God was not finished. Years later, after God called Moses to deliver Israel and brought them out of Egypt with a mighty hand, Moses found himself crushed by the weight of leadership. From dawn till dusk, he judged disputes among the people. His father-in-law Jethro, wise and practical, saw this and said, "What you are doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone." Exodus chapter 18, verse 17 through 18. He advised Moses to select capable, trustworthy men to share the burden of leadership. Moses listened, and by delegating, the nation was strengthened. Jethro's counsel shaped the way Israel would be governed for generations. However, before this encounter, there was a support system, a friend and a wife, Zipporah. Zipporah's story reminds us that greatness is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like small acts of kindness, helping a stranger, offering support, believing in someone when no one else does. And Moses, before he led a nation, he needed someone to lead him toward healing. We all need a Zipporah in our lives, and we can be that person too. Her story, though only mentioned briefly in the Bible and supported by other traditions, carries a timeless lesson that no act of goodness is ever wasted, that compassion is strength, and that sometimes the quietest voices have the greatest impact. As you reflect on Moses and Zipporah, ask yourself, who has God placed in your life to strengthen you in your wilderness? And more importantly, whose life can you step into with kindness, courage, and support? If this story stirred your heart, share it today. Be someone's Zipporah, because one act of compassion can change the course of history.